It's now official. The Toronto Blue Jays hold sole possession of first place in the AL East.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON, Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase. As always, I'm Brayden Walsco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Brayden5 Walsco. Carter First, too, as well on our main Twitter account at Locked On Jays. And if you're new, or if you haven't already, go over to the Instagram and the TikTok. Follow us there at Locked On Blue Jays. And if you haven't already hit the subscribe button, a lot of you have been doing it as of the past couple days. But if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button on YouTube. It's completely free. They're not charging anything. We're not charging anything. You get your podcast, your shorts, your live streams, your videos. So hit that subscribe button. Keep the train rolling here as the Toronto Blue Jays are. Carter, a lot to get into today on today's show. Obviously, we're going to talk George Springer. We're going to talk just how the Jays have been as of late. But, I am getting an alert, Carter. That's the new Toronto Blue Jays sweep alert that it took me about 4.5 seconds to make. So let's go. Let's go. That's a great start to the show right there.
The most creative podcast award right there is going to Brayden Walsco. Holy crap, this guy is just on the money right now. But what a series. I mean, from the Toronto Blue Jays, just unbelievable stuff right now. Easily the best series of the year for this team up to this point. Sole possession of the AL East. Man, does that feel good to say. Just an absolute dog walking of the New York Yankees. We went into this series kind of hoping that the Toronto Blue Jays were going to get Marcus Stroman. It didn't really matter who got put in front of the Toronto Blue Jays. Could have been Randy Johnson, it feels like. The offense would have shown up. The offense just continues to carry this baseball team. Doesn't matter who it is day in and day out. We're getting production up and down this lineup. But there's like 4 people that I want to really thank right now. It's George Springer's parents and it's Aston Barger's parents, because holy crap, what a series from both of these two players. Just insanely fun to watch, especially beating up on your AL East rival.
Yeah, man. You know, those two guys in particular have been absolutely outstanding. And in a series where we needed guys to step up and take control and do damage, these two guys did more than their fair share. This was absolutely electric. And you know what? We've gotten a lot of great comments from all you guys, and we want to continue hearing your guys' thoughts and feelings as the series and season moves, or as the season moves along. I guess a couple series away from the All-Star break, less than a month away now from the trade deadline. So we have a lot to get into on this, on podcast coming up. Again, we're 5 days a week, Monday to Friday. We are here, so we have a lot to talk about, and thank God we are 5 days a week, because I don't know how else we'd fit in everything. But man, this really gets your mind going. I mean, it got mine going. It's like, oh man, should I start planning to take a couple days off work to go to the playoffs? Should I, everything runs through your mind. And this is what joy watching baseball feels like. Again, it feels like it's been a long time, but we're so back. And I started talking to a bunch of people, friends of ours, people at work, whatever. And it was people that have come up to me and said, you know what, I really haven't been able to get back into baseball because the team hasn't been that good. And they said that even then, they're like, I haven't felt like this since 2015-16. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, I get it. This team feels amazing right now, but I also don't want to overhype this team. I don't want to get to a point where they maybe lose a series and then, the world comes crumbling down. No, this is a great stretch of baseball from a team that's playing amazing. But it's not going to be the end of the world if they end up do lose a series. We have to remember, this is still a long season to go. There's still half of the year left of baseball. So we need these guys to continue to produce. And I think it's just going to keep bringing in more and more fans, Carter. And that's what's so nice to see, is people that aren't necessarily like your diehard ball fans are getting on the back on the wagon. And that's what I love to see. I love seeing, because it is one team, one nation here for the Toronto Blue Jays. Seeing everybody get into it. I mean, even people at work, I got people at work texting me all night long when the Jays sweep the Yankees, saying how back in they are. And that is just a great feeling to have, the little bit of community that there is with the Toronto Blue Jays fans.
Yeah, some people might complain. They might say, "Oh, like those bandwagon fans are coming back. These guys aren't real Toronto Blue Jays fans." My only argument here is, at least we're good enough now to have bandwagon fans. Like that's a pretty good spot to be in. I'm gonna completely take that after the way 2024 went, and that is one of the biggest storylines from 2024 to 2025. Is when we talked about how bad 2024 was, and how that could be that could differ in 2025. How the Toronto Blue Jays could have a better season. It all started with their homegrown guys. It all started with guys that have been here for a very long time. You look at how George Springer played in 2024. Horrific season. He could probably be the first one to tell you that was the worst season of his career. Alejandro Kirk was in a below average hitter. Ernie Clement below average. Jason Barger not even on this baseball team. Even your guy, David Schneider, starting to look a little bit like David Schneider, having some quality at-bats as well. So you can go down this list. There's so many different guys throughout this order. Bichette's another guy that I didn't even bring up that obviously is playing a whole lot better this season than he was last season. So there's 5-6 players in this offense right now that are playing miles better than they were in 2025. And that's without Anthony Santander. That's without Daulton Varsho. That's without Vladimir Guerrero Jr. really firing on all cylinders. So that's why when we talk about just this team and how it's compromised right now, with the trade deadline ahead of us, with Toronto Blue Jays looking like a massive big-time buyer with a couple of weeks, again, up until the All-Star break, up until this trade deadline. So it's just nice that things are going extremely well. And I said on the last episode, but it's definitely nice to look at other teams now, be able to kind of pick some of their best players that the Toronto Blue Jays might be inquiring on, rather than scalping the entire Toronto Blue Jays team, whether it's guys on one-year contracts, whether it's like the Bichettes and the Vladdies at that point where it's being talked about being shopped all over the place. Crazy how things have changed in less than 1 year of baseball.
And you know what? I did want to get into a little bit on Vladimir Guerrero Jr. because you're right. We're going to need all of these guys to be competitive for the rest of this year and to really push this team into a hopefully winning a playoff series. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to have to be at his best. And I think the good thing right now is you're seeing Vladimir Guerrero Jr. not play his best baseball. But you have other guys picking up the slack at this point. And that's something that didn't happen last year. When Vladdy was off, the whole team was done. This season, if Vladdy's off, well, you still got 2 or 3 or 4 guys that can go up there and compete on a daily basis. And that is a huge difference to this ball club compared to 2024. And Vladdy right now is in a slump. And he is not looking like Vladdy. And I think it will come. I'm not completely sold out on Vladdy's done, blah, 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 all this. You paid him $500 million. Yes, he's not playing like that right now. But I think Vladdy will get into a position where he heats up, and then we will see it. And if that's the case, and then George Springer just starts to fall back a little bit, and that's where Vladdy maybe steps up, or Addison Barger falls down a little bit, and Vladdy steps up. Right? These guys do go through hot and cold streaks. You're seeing an absolute, maybe the hottest streak ever from George Springer right now. So you got to remember that as well, and take that into consideration when you do look at the numbers over the past few days or past series or whatever. I think right now what I'm trying to do, Carter, is instead of looking at the negative, this is the best we have felt and this team has looked in a very long time. And instead of dwelling on the fact that, this guy isn't doing necessarily what you want, or this guy's not doing necessarily what you want, or, we got a comment about the run differential yesterday. And fair enough. And you know what? The run differential isn't very good. But at the end of the day, it matters about wins. Not how many runs you score. It doesn't matter if you lose by 12. It doesn't matter if you lose by 1. A loss is a loss. This isn't the NHL. There's no overtime losses. This is a win or lose. There's 2 options. And this team has done more winning than they have losing. And that, at the end of the day, is all I care about. And making a push to put yourself in a position to be able to compete in the playoffs and to be able to be buyers at the deadline. So right now, I am all positivity, Carter. I don't care. I know there are negatives that we can go into, and don't get me wrong, we still will. But I think for the majority of this, I will be looking at this team in a very, very positive light moving forward because of the position they've put themselves in.
We always talk about peaks and valleys of a baseball season. The Toronto Blue Jays will probably be playing different baseball than they're playing right now, whether that means they're scoring runs in a different way, whether that means they have different pitchers on the mound trying to give them innings. Like right now, it doesn't really matter how the Toronto Blue Jays are getting it done. It's the fact that they are getting it done. It doesn't matter if they're winning by 1 run or 1,000,000 runs. It's the fact, like you kind of said, they are getting the win in the score column because we are just over halfway through the season, but there is still a ton of baseball left. Vladdy could be hot at this time. God forbid there's an injury. The trade deadline could happen. Maybe there's a huge blockbuster move, and then there's a huge shakeup in the IL East. So many things can be are still left to be decided for the rest of the season. So the Toronto Blue Jays are just kind of inputting themselves into a pretty good spot here to be 11 games above 500, to be way up now in the season series against the New York Yankees, which is something that hasn't necessarily been talked about up to this point. You get a 4-game series win, 4-game series sweep, which is very fun to say, especially against your division rival. Just a fun week of baseball. And in theory, you do have a kind of lighter stretch coming up here, but you go on a great run against an AL East. I mean, if you look at these, that 7-game stretch you just went on, I said 4-3 would be good. How about 6-1 from the Toronto Blue Jays team? Again, how can you be upset and be nitpicking at the negatives right now, especially when it comes to like run differential, or just maybe you're like not exactly happy with how the starting pitching has been. You're not happy with the length that they have been given. Yes, there are, again, still some stuff that you can be upset at with this baseball team, and you got to kind of, iron sharpens iron, so you don't want those little things to kind of fall through the grate and be overlooked. Like, you've seen the base running improve. You've seen the little things be improved so far throughout the season. I'm just sitting back kind of enjoying this stretch right now, because this is probably the most fun I've been thinking back. It's probably the most fun I've had watching baseball since we were confirmed to make the playoffs back in 2023. That's kind of where I got back to. So over for sure a year and a half of baseball. Just vibes could not really be higher, probably in the clubhouse and amongst this fan base.
Yeah, Carter, a lot more we want to talk about. Obviously, like, we're going to go through this game a little bit because we haven't already. This is more of a thoughts, feelings, get it out of the way, because I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you can tell in our faces and our voices how pumped up we are about what has happened. So we're going to come back. We're going to talk a little bit more about this series before we get into the series preview, because we have to do that. As much as we want to live in the moment and live in these games, right back to it, there's another series. So we'll come back with a ton more on the other side of this break. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. You guys know how much I love Game Time. Over the past couple of years, it's been my go-to ticketing app. We've all been there, logging on early, waiting forever for concert or game tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music, games should all be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. I always say this all the time. My biggest pet peeve with ticketing sites is that you go on, you log on, you think you're in there in a good amount of time, and it kicks you off. Well, Game Time makes it even easier to even get the last minute deals, which is a huge bonus as well, where, the closer it gets to the time, the better deal you're going to get. Game Time makes getting tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices drop, like I said, closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last minute deals. Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. So, Carter, I did want to go through this game sort of as we continue here. You know what? I think we got to start. We got to talk about Chris Bassitt, a guy that it was a very weird outing for Chris Bassitt. I want to go over his stat line, but then really dive into sort of how he was looking on the mound. 5 2/3 innings pitched, 8 hits given up, 3 runs, 9 Ks, 3 walks, and a home run given up. And that stat line honestly might look pretty good to you, or okay, because you do see more strikeouts coming from Chris Bassitt. But I don't think he had his best stuff. I don't think that, that's a surprise to anybody. I think you saw that game, and he didn't look perfect. And I think that this was a great job by the offense to get him this win after the performance he had the game or his last start, Carter. So I think that right now, this is something that Chris Bassitt really needed confidence-wise moving forward into the rest of this season. I think that you could have let this start sputter and whatever, because, you didn't have your best stuff two outings ago. Then you come into this one and you're like, oh my goodness, I don't have my best stuff again, and I'm going to lose another game for my team. But this offense shows up and gives them the backing that I think we were asking for a ton last year. And they really outdid themselves with this one. I think instilling some confidence back into Chris Bassitt.
You could tell that both teams were taking this game very seriously. I mean, Clark Schmidt, there was an injury, but it felt like they were going to take Clark Schmidt out fairly soon as well. Just the way the game was going, both teams realized how important that game was, and especially in terms with Chris Bassitt. We went over how this starting pitching hasn't necessarily given you that length that you've wanted. It hasn't been bad, but when you're on a 16 game and 16-day stretch, you kind of need a couple performances sprinkled in where you can get 6 innings, you can get 7 innings, maybe even 8 innings for in a time or two. So that can definitely help your bullpen be rested. Even going into this game, you knew a bunch of guys were not going to be available. Brendan Little throwing a ton of pitches, Jimmy Garcia throwing over 30 pitches. Jeff Hoffman was debatably available. He threw 3 out of 4 days. You thought you could maybe use him if you had to. Didn't necessarily want to. And then so you really only had Brayden Fisher available, Chad Green, Justin Brule, and then again, that would have been Jeff Hoffman as one of your other relievers. So credit to Chris Bassitt, like you said, not necessarily having his best stuff. Was able to get ahead of the count pretty often. That is something we have seen from Chris Bassitt this entire season, but really struggled again, just kind of to put away hitters, at least early on in the count. He did rack up 9 strikeouts and was able to put away hitters after some fighting, though, because there was a lot of foul balls, a lot of balls just on the blocks, some pretty good at-bats from the New York Yankees hitters, which they've really been doing this entire series. But credit to Chris Bassitt in a time ago, you said, didn't necessarily have his best stuff, was able to rely, it seemed like, on the curveball when he got down in a lot of scenarios, was able to just kind of flip that thing in there. I know you don't love necessarily the curveball, especially when it floats in the zone, but Chris Bassitt has been shown this year and has shown us that he has relied on that curveball when he kind of gets in sticky situations. But yeah, credit to Chris Bassitt, especially him knowing that they needed some sort of length from him in this baseball game through, I believe, 110 pitches. So, yeah, credit to Chris Bassitt for kind of just, working through some adversity and giving the Toronto Blue Jays a very good start in a series that they really wanted to sweep and really wanted to make up that ground to get sole possession of the AL East. I'm going to continue to say that in this podcast because, man, I don't know. It feels good. I'm not even going to say like what's going to happen. Baseball is baseball, but let's enjoy it while it's here is the way I'll put it.
Yeah, that is a not bad idea because you're right. Baseball's weird. It's tricky. You can go and you can beat up on the Yankees a little bit in a 4-game set, and then you never know what's going to happen the following day. But yeah, I think we hit the nail on the head a little bit with Chris Bassitt. Again, not his best day, but still gets the job done. Gives you 5 2/3, which I think is big. I think they needed him to get that to give this bullpen a little help. So good on him. And we got to, I just want to go through the game a little bit. So Addison Barger, absolute dog. It's unbelievable, actually. 3 for 4. He had 2 RBIs and a big one to start the game, right? That's how you have to kick things off against the Yankees. You have to have a tone-setting inning. And don't get me wrong, it's not 6 runs, it's not 7 runs, but it's a run. It puts you on the board and gets you up early, and I think that's massive. So great job by Addison Barger. George Springer scores on that one. Then Trent Grisham in the third home runs to center, so it's tie ball game. Then George Springer comes up with a 2-run blast to make it 3-1. And then Volpe singles to right center and scores on a wild pitch. Nathan Lucas then doubles to deep left, that's where David Schneider scores. Will Wagner scores on that same one to then put you back up. And then, of course,
we got to talk about that at bat right now. I mean,
so the Nathan Lucas at bat.
Just what maybe I said this is the best series of the season, probably the best at bat of the season from Nathan Lucas. He fouled off 9 balls. It felt like he was fouling off balls for an hour. And like if you're Beater on the mound, Clayton Beater throwing him 14 pitches in that at bat, he fouls off like the third baseball. You're like, I hate my life already. Like, get this guy out of the batter's box. And he was throwing good pitches as well. Nathan Lucas just continued to get to them, whether it was inside, outside, high, low, off speed, hard stuff. It just what an at bat by Nathan Lucas. What a big swing in a scenario where it's a 3-3 ball game. It felt like there was going to be a big hit, and it was either going to go the Toronto Blue Jays way or the New York Yankees way, the way just the offenses were hitting in this baseball game. But yeah, credit to Nathan Lucas for just putting bat on the ball and hitting the ball hard down the third base line for a 2-run double.
Well, and a crazy thing about the pitch that he did end up hitting for the double to score those 2 runs was that it actually started foul. It spun back fair, or I guess spun back is the wrong thing, but it took its first hop was foul, and then it must have hit the dirt and with the spin coming off the pitch, and then the bat spun back across the fair line and past the bag. So, little things, can go one way or the other in a game completely different. But you're right, an amazing at-bat from Nathan Lucas, something we've seen him do before and fight and battle. Sort of the Alejandro Kirk, right, where he just fouls and he's just a pest to pitch against. And so great job from him. The Addison Barger home run, Carter, was absolutely gross. And then, I mean, the George Springer one, the second home run for George Springer, I don't even know. Like, I think I put out a tweet that said, all hail George Springer, because that is the only way to put how I'm feeling right now. He is God in this series. George Springer, I don't want to say single-handedly, because there was a lot of guys that had a good series, including Addison Barger. But oh my God, you can't take anything away from what George Springer has done this series and for this team, helping push this team to first place in the AL East.
Yeah, pretty good 4-game set for George Springer. He's got the stats here. Hit .571 over this 4-game series. 8 hits, 4 home runs, 11 RBIs, 7 runs scored. That's against New York Yankees. A fairly good baseball team. One of the better teams, obviously, in the AL East. The second best record now in the AL East as well. So credit to the New York Yankees for coming out and trying, at least, against the Toronto Blue Jays this week. Just insane stuff from George Springer, and just like one of the main reasons why you see this offense being top 10 in a ton of categories. It all really starts from George Springer in the middle of that order. And you look at this team, and you look at kind of the line throughout the series. You didn't even have Bichette for this pretty much entire series, literally the entire series. And what do you get from the leadoff spot? Nathan Lucas goes 3 for 5 with 2 doubles and a single. Andres Gimenez is leading off in a game. He gets 3 hits on his own. Ernie Clement's leading off for 2 of the games, has a multi-hit day, was starting to walk all of a sudden. Ernie Clement had like 11 or 12 walks last year. I think he's had like 6 or 7 in the last 5 or 6 games. So Ernie Clement deciding that he's going to walk. It's just things that have been going well for the Toronto Blue Jays. Maybe a little bit unorthodox, but it just seems like things are really starting to fall into place. Knock on wood, we kind of saw it with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Taking a foul ball off the ankle. The only thing that can really stop this team, knock on wood again, because I really don't want it to happen, is some injuries. And we've already kind of seen it happen. The Toronto Blue Jays have not been very lucky with their injury luck up to this point. Bichette's been hurt. Pretty much all of their relievers, it seems like, have been hurt. Luckily, again, knock on wood, the top 3 in this rotation have not been hurt yet. Hopefully it's not even yet. Hopefully it just doesn't happen. But the injury bug has been around the Toronto Blue Jays locker room. But yes, we see it, whether it's Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Bichette, Jonathan Clase, Davis Schneider. I mean, Will Robertson came in and had some productive at-bats. It doesn't matter who it is on this baseball team right now. They have a very good mentality. Credit to David Popkins. Credit to everyone who is involved in the hitting side for the Toronto Blue Jays organization, because we've seen right in front of our eyes some hitters emerge and some hitters unfold that are some of the better hitters in all of baseball, and credit is definitely deserved to be given to a lot of these new faces around this Toronto Blue Jays clubhouse.
Yeah, and you brought up the injury bug that this team has sort of had this year, right?
Knock on wood again.
There you go.
It terrifies me.
They still have Daulton Varsho. They still have Anthony Santander, and I almost lost my mind when Vlad took the ball that was batted into his leg by himself. And he looked a little worse for wear. And I was like, oh, yep, here we go. Of course, the Blue Jays become first place in the AL East, and then Vlad goes down with an injury. But of course, he continues to play through, and he seemed and looked fine. So thank God for that. You see Bichette get back in the lineup for one at bat today as well. So that's a very good sign. Thank goodness. So yeah, it really just everything this week has come together well for the Toronto Blue Jays, Carter. I did want to go over some of their offensive team stats. As of right now, they're tied for ninth in runs scored, or I guess it'd be runs per game, I guess. Hits, they are tied for third per game with 8.7. Average, third. On base percentage, third. Slugging, 13th, which is understandable because they haven't, this entire season, they haven't been a home run generating machine up until as of late. On OPS, they're 10th. Home run, 17th. Stolen bases 25th, but you know what I mean? Just looking at those offensive numbers, that is something so crazy because we have not seen those numbers for what seems like forever. So big shout out to this team's offense. And you know what? The ability to grind and do what you have to do by this pitching staff and this bullpen as a whole. You're right. You haven't got the length from the starters you've wanted, but I think the ability to still be able to get wins and work yourself through games and leave the bad games in the past and move on, I think is a huge component for the 2025 team here.
Well, just look at what this team did against the New York Yankees, against Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, Will Warren, Clark Schmidt. You score 5 runs, 11 runs, 12 runs, and 8 runs. That's 36 runs in 4 baseball games. That is 9 runs per game. You're going to probably have little bit of success when you're scoring 9 runs a game. Just maybe. I think that will be okay for your baseball team. But it's been just an absolute no, who could have predicted this? Like that's why it's just kind of my mind sometimes feels like it's absolutely blown watching this offense because it's so unpredictable and it's so much fun because it never feels like this team is out of a baseball game. It always feels like no matter where you are in this lineup, damage can happen at all times. And it's a very fun feeling to have. It just like everyone in the Toronto Blue Jays box is dangerous. And it's very nice to watch as a fan where there's really no low parts in an order where like the pitcher on the opposing side can kind of take a mental break and be like, okay, we can kind of set ourselves on cruise control here until at least the next inning where you find the top of the lineup. At certain points of the year, the bottom of the order has been better than the top of the lineup. So just, credit to everyone who is producing in their own way for the Toronto Blue Jays club. I do have 2 questions for you. I didn't really tell you this before the episode.
That's all right.
There was 2 things that we had, obviously, I had slow pitch today as well. Was able to watch the Toronto Blue Jays game. Nobody ruined the score for me at the game, so that was super nice. Was able to watch that and kind of see my reactions live and still have that enjoyment of watching the baseball game. But this is one thing that someone brought up to me, and we always talk about peaks and valleys, and it kind of got me thinking a little bit. I just wanted to hear your opinion on this. So they kind of phrased it as baseball is a game of peaks and valleys. Last year, we saw nobody expected this team to be that bad, right? Like you went into 2024, you maybe thought the Toronto Blue Jays fringe playoff team. That can be considered a massive valley. So on the flip side now, things are going pretty well in Toronto Blue Jays land. You do have a lot of injuries. You have just a lot of guys exceeding expectations. Can we possibly just be in a massive peak right now? And maybe this is a little bit of karma for all the trauma that we had to go through last year in this as 2024 Toronto Blue Jays fans.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. I think that's exactly what it is. And it's not just in season for peaks and valleys. It is season to season of who's doing well, who's not doing well, who's doing well. That's baseball. There's so many games that stuff like this has to happen. And what it really reminds me of, Carter, is and I know this is going to sound crazy because I'm a Vancouver Canucks fan, but the Vancouver Canucks, they had a really bad year, a disappointing year. And you're like, oh my God, like what's going on? What are they going to do? Then they had a huge peak and you're like, whoa, like, can you believe that this is the Vancouver Canucks? And then they had another valley again. So this is sports. I don't think this is anything new. Teams go through years of this, right? Until they figure it out and really lock something down. But I feel like if the Blue Jays take advantage of this right now and make some great additions at the deadline, I think maybe you can try to avoid that peaking and valleying year to year. I think you can make it sustainable if you approach deadlines and off seasons well. And I think that you got to give credit where credit is due to this ball club.
Yeah, sometimes all it takes is 1 year of just a bunch of guys kind of putting it together for some magical things to happen for a baseball team, and hopefully that can be the Toronto Blue Jays this season. A lot of baseball to be played, but like I said, things are going pretty well. Wouldn't change too much going on for this Toronto Blue Jays club right now. The second thing that I just wanted to quickly bring up to you is that there's been a lot of, like I said, unlikely performances and unlikely seasons we have seen from the Toronto Blue Jays club. Some unfortunate circumstances have undergone as well. But if you had to pick, I think there's 3 guys in my head that you could pick for this right now. But your savior of the season, that one player that kind of has come in a plug-and-play scenario, whether the expectations are high and low on this guy, who is the one guy for you, whether it's offensively or in the pitching staff, that has been the Toronto Blue Jays savior and has really saved them from kind of spiraling out of control when things would have started to go tough?
I think there's 3 guys you can name here. Number 1, it has to be George Springer. George Springer, coming off of the season he had last year, we weren't expecting anything close to this. And he completely shut all of us up and brought us all back to being George Springer fans. So one of them has to be him. The second one is absolutely Addison Barger, a guy that nobody expected, or not that nobody expected. Well, we didn't expect it. I think, again, we always saw that the tools and the skill set was there. It's just, would he ever be able to put it together? And wow, did he ever put it together? This guy has been outstanding. And third, a guy that I know I could maybe throw Ernie Clement in there as well, but my third guy that I would put in here is Yariel Rodriguez. I think a guy that through, we weren't sure what he was going to become. Was he going to become a starter? Was he going to be just, a bullpen long relief guy? What was he going to do? And now he's probably the second, if not, I don't know, he's maybe your most trusted bullpen arm. And in a season going into this year when you didn't know what your bullpen was going to look like. We were talking about, oh, you got to find diamonds in the rough. You got to find diamonds in the rough. Well, that happened, but you also had Yariel Rodriguez make massive steps, even from the beginning of this season, Carter. He has turned into a great piece. So those three guys for me have been the turning points, or the big unexpected changes to this team. And you know what? There's a lot of guys I could throw in here. Ernie, Clement, Alejandro, Kirk, bounce back. There are so many guys. The Bichette bounce back. I mean, even from last year, you could say that too, but that's an easy one. So there is a lot of guys, but those three in particular for me, those are my three guys.
Yeah, I wasn't even really thinking about Yariel Rodriguez. I had Alejandro Kirk kind of as one of my other ones. So I guess you could expand this to 5. You can't have a list like this if you don't include Eric Lauer. I mean, with the starting rotation, with how things have went earlier on in this season, Eric Lauer has been an absolute staple in that starting rotation. So I think if you're talking savior of the season, especially from the way the pitching has gone, I think the biggest weakness up to this season, I think me and you can agree, has been the starting pitching. So to have that rock, to have that backbone in that starting rotation as your fifth starter, whatever you want to call Eric Lauer at this point, he's been eating innings, and he has been very effective for what he has done with the Toronto Blue Jays. So just a bunch of guys kind of going down the line here. If I had to pick one guy specifically, if it's not Eric Lauer, I think when we were looking at this team, we were thinking one guy from Buffalo has to make the jump. We need that Spencer Horwitz type jump. We've gotten even more than that. And it's Aston Barger, that middle of the order power bat, a guy that is almost on pace for 30 home runs in the middle of this order. And we weren't really expecting Aston Barger to have much of an impact at all on this Toronto Blue Jays baseball team here in 2025. I think about 80%, that might even be on the low side of people didn't really think Aston Barger at least was going to have an impact. Maybe they didn't give up on him, but not have this big of an impact. You're an Aston Barger guy before the season. Credit to you, because the raw athleticism was always there. But I think that has been one of the biggest jumps for the Toronto Blue Jays, is that Aston Barger has come in, been that spark plug, and has been, again, one of those guys that is here for a little bit of a longer time, is still a young baseball player, really just kind of rejuvenized the Toronto Blue Jays fan base and put a little bit of faith in some of their homegrown guys, just being able to hold this team together. And possibly, at this point, I think the playoffs, like everyone's kind of, like I said, buying their tickets, planning the trip to Toronto, hopefully as a home playoff series, but maybe even to make a deeper playoff run. Again, we got to see what they do at the trade deadline, but it's a very different conversation right now than we were having last year about this ball club.
Yeah, Carter, and you know what? We have a lot more to talk about, and good thing we do have many more days before the deadline hits, and All-Star Week. We're going to have a ton of content coming for you guys. But Carter, let's take a quick break. Let's come back. Let's talk the series upcoming and what we expect from that. So, yeah, we'll come back with all that on the other side. Toronto Blue Jays, Los Angeles Angels. Here we go. First game, I'm going to get right into it, Carter, just because, we might as well talk the pitching. Eric Lauer versus, it is to be determined as of right now for the first game for the Angels. I'm not sure who that's going to be. Second game, it is Jack Kokanowicz, there we go, versus Max Scherzer, and then Tyler Anderson and Kevin Gausman for the third game of this series. Carter, you know what? This is a weird one for me. I think it's going to be 2-1 Blue Jays. That's my guess right there. I think it's going to be game 1 and game 3, just because I don't know how Max Scherzer is going to be. I don't know if his thumb is going to be good. As of right now, it seems like it will be. It seems like he is in good health, and the thumb is okay enough to pitch. So I just don't know who's pitching that first game quite yet to make a full-blown decision. But I am, with how good Eric Lauer's been, I'm over the waiting for the shoe to drop. I'm just here cheering for him. So game 1, game 3, 2-1 series win Blue Jays. That's what I got.
Yeah, and the Toronto Blue Jays get pretty lucky again, missing the best two pitchers in the Los Angeles Angels organization, and Jose Soriano, and then the guy we know pretty well, Yusei Kikuchi, having a very good season down there. So the Toronto Blue Jays have gotten pretty lucky for the most part with a lot of these starting pitching matchups. Like, they have missed Dylan Cease, they've missed Tyler Skubal. You can keep going down the list. Recently, like Garrett Crochet against the Boston Red Sox, they just previously missed as well. So it's been going in the Toronto Blue Jays' favor, at least with some of the pitching matchups here. It's a little bit unfortunate that you do miss Chris Bassitt, you do miss Jose Berrios, but obviously they are given some well-deserved rest. The Los Angeles Angels kind of on an interesting streak right now playing a pretty decent brand of baseball. Like just kind of looking at, it's been very streaky though, but looking at their past few games, they have been playing pretty good baseball. Like they are just kind of fighting to be around that 500 mark. Just beat the Braves in a series 2-1, but then lost to the Nationals before that, swept the Red Sox, lost a series to the Houston Astros. Then they beat the Yankees in a 4-game set, 3-1, got swept by the Orioles, swept the Athletics. So the team's kind of been all over the map a little bit here. They did have some of their guys come back from injury, like we probably will have to deal with Mike Trout in this game. So I didn't have to do that in the first series, the first time around. So things are a little bit different this time, but you do get rewarded with some of the pitching matchups in this series. Let's keep the good times rolling. I think you got to go 2 out of 3 against this Los Angeles Angels team. You got 9 games left. You got the White Sox, you got the Athletics, you got the Angels. Again, that's not in order, but those are the 9 games that you will be playing. Imagine the team goes 6-3. You're 14 games above 500 at the end, or at the time you get to the All-Star break, and you still have 2 weeks before that trade deadline. I mean, not necessarily where I expected the Toronto Blue Jays to be. I had them at 85 wins, and they should. Hopefully, they can at least continue, like even partially this trajectory, surpass that 85 win mark, and be comfortably in the playoffs. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. But it's hard not to with just how long it's been this consistent, and just how good this team has looked in recent games.
I did say the Blue Jays were going to have 89 wins this year. That was my guess. So I just want to throw that back out there.
I checked the pace the other day, and I think it was just over 90. So it would have been about 90. So oh no, the Toronto Blue Jays won too many games for Brayden Wasco. That's always going to be a problem that I guess we're going to have maybe on the FanDuel account. But I mean, real life, yeah, I'd rather be wrong every single time if it means Toronto Blue Jays success.
Me too, my man. As always, everybody, we appreciate you listening and watching and commenting. You guys have been killing it lately. We've had a blast in the discussions. Even if you guys disagree with something that we said, we're going to have friendly banter in the conversation. Carter just had one with a guy the other day. There was a little bit of discussion going on about Andres Gimenez. And you know what? He was very nice, very respectful. The guy says he's a fan of the show and just wanted to have a conversation. And we did that. That was fantastic. You guys literally are the best in the comment section. We've had a blast getting to talk with you guys, getting to know some of you guys that are in the comment section consistently. If you're commenting on the TikTok, the Instagram, you're tweeting at us, whatever it is, we appreciate it all. Hit that subscribe button if you are new. And Carter, my man, anything else before we kick out of here and let the people have a great weekend?
Yeah, I mean, correct to us. We got a late episode going right now. It's only 1 a.m. Brayden was working the Bomber game, but it's just a lot easier to talk about this baseball team, even though I am tired and I work in like 5.5 hours. Might not be a very fun Friday. But then I'll remember the Toronto Blue Jays just swept the New York Yankees. And I think that I'll be able to just, sacrifice a little bit of sleep to talk about a baseball team that's absolutely on fire right now and just, relegated team back to AAA after what they did in that 4-game stretch. Just wanted to say thank you guys for watching. Likes, comments, support. Everything recently has been much appreciated. But with all the new people in, we have noticed that about 76% of you guys are not subscribed. So you are coming back, tuning into the shorts, the podcast, the lives that we have a date. I'm not going to confirm it quite yet, but I think we're 99% sure we're locked in. So we'll have that 999 challenge coming to you guys shortly. We will tease the date and give you guys some time, kind of plan it around in your calendars as well. Maybe join us in doing the 999 challenge if you don't want to be absolutely ridiculous like Brayden's going to make me be on that day. But I just want to say one more time, thank you guys for watching. And hopefully we can continue the good vibes for this weekend series against the Los Angeles Angels.